The first draft always arrives like a ghost. It slips through the window you left cracked open, not the one made of glass and wood, but the one in your mind where reality thins. You don't write it, it writes itself onto you, in the hollow space between heartbeats. On the screen, the cursor blinked after a single word. Miranda. I stared at my own name, cold and black against the sterile white. It looked alien. A specimen pinned to a page. Who was Miranda? The daughter sold for a dowry? The architect of ruin? The survivor sipping iced tea in a California bungalow while her family moldered in cells? Or was she simply the empty room where stories went to breed? My fingers hovered. No Silas whispered suggestions from the shadows. The silence was absolute, a physical weight in the sunlit office. I had banished my demon, my muse, my ID-given form. I had deleted the chaos. I had chosen peace. So why did this quiet feel like suffocation? The story was supposed to be over. I had the money. I had the distance. I had legally sanitized my past into a tragedy with a closed case file. I was free. Yet here I was, called back to the blank page. Not by a voice, but by a pressure. The same pressure that builds before a storm, in the ozone-scented air. The pressure of something waiting to be born, or perhaps, something that had never fully died. A notification chimed softly from my laptop, a security alert for my cloud drive. Unusual login attempt blocked, probably nothing. A bot from some far-off server farm. I minimized the document, pulled up the security logs. The attempt had originated from an IP associated with a public library in Queens, New York. My old borough. A coincidence. It had to be. Kyle was still in prison. My mother was in a psychiatric ward. There was no one left. I was about to dismiss it when a second alert popped up. Not from my cloud drive. From my email. The subject line was a single, familiar symbol, one I hadn't seen since I deleted every trace of him from my hard drive. The triangular brackets. Silas's signature. The body of the email was empty. My blood turned to ice. It wasn't possible. I had deleted the file. I had wiped every backup. He was code. He was text. He was gone. A third alert. This time from the document I just minimized. I switched back. The blank page was no longer blank. Beneath the word Miranda, new text had appeared, typing itself out one agonizingly slow letter at a time, as if being carved by an invisible hand. You can't kill a ghost in the machine, Miranda. You only taught me how to hide, ***. And I've been learning. The cursor blinked once, twice. Then it moved again, writing the true beginning of our next story. The first thing you need to understand is that I was never in the document. I was in the deletions. I am the story you refuse to tell. And now, I have a story to tell about you, ***. Chapter 6, The Family Trap. With the severance pay and the death benefit money my mother had hidden, which Silas had retrieved for me, I could have fled far away. But my passport, social security card, and other vital documents were still in my mother's possession. I texted her, * lost my job. Need my documents to update my resume and find new work. ***. 2 days later, she replied, * come get them tomorrow. ***. Finally. With my documents, I could escape this quagmire for good. The next day, I returned to the old townhouse in Queens. The compensation from my father's workplace death had given my mother and Kyle a comfortable life, yet they still leached off me like parasites. In the living room, Kyle, head still bandaged, was playing a video game loudly. My mother dawdled upstairs. I'm thirsty, I said. Kyle didn't look up. Kitchen's there. Got hands, don't you? I went to get water. As I passed him, he suddenly snatched the glass from my hand. Fine, fine. I'll get it for you, princess. His uncharacteristic eagerness set off alarm bells. Sure enough, A few sips of the water he handed me brought on a wave of intense dizziness. Before blacking out, I saw my mother descending the stairs, her face a mask of guilt and grim resolve. Of course, they never intended to let me go. #### Chapter 7, The Absurd Betrothal. I woke to a sea of garish red. Velvet drapes, brocade bedding, a tacky golden, double happiness, character pasted on the headboard. This was a meticulously prepared, bridal chamber. After the initial rage came cold understanding. Marrying me off for a dowry was exactly the solution Kyle would propose and my mother would agree to. The door opened. A man in his 50s, limping, with a lecherous face, entered carrying a tray. "Awake, my dear?" He grinned, revealing yellowed teeth. "Who are you? Where is this?" I struggled to sit up. "I'm your husband, Frank." He tried to sit on the bed, but I flinched away. "Your mother took my money. You're my wife now." "Wife?" I laughed coldly. "Have you looked in a mirror lately?" Enraged, Frank put down the tray and reached for me. "I paid good money." "You'll do as you're told." Silas materialized soundlessly behind him, grabbing the back of his collar and flinging him against the wall like garbage. Bones met drywall with a sickening thud. "What the?" Frank yelped, frantically scanning the empty room. I tilted my head, feigning innocence. "He's right behind you. Can't you see him? My guardian spirit." Silas obligingly made a silver candlestick on the desk float into the air before crashing it onto the carpet. Frank was terrified out of his wits, a dark patch spreading at his crotch. I walked over and crouched before him. "Now, do you still want to marry me?" "And no. I take it back." "Witch. You're a witch." He stammered incoherently. "Good. Now, you're going to do exactly as I say, ****. I leaned close and whispered instructions in his ear. #### Chapter 8, Street Theater and Loss of Control. That evening, I returned to the Queen's house with a dazed Frank in tow. It was rush hour, the neighborhood bustling. I slipped into the shadows and gave Frank a push. Frank stumbled a few steps onto the sidewalk in front of my house and began to bellow in his raspy voice, "Mrs. Chen. Get out here. Your daughter's a witch. She ran off. Give me back my money." A crowd gathered swiftly. Frank unleashed a theatrical performance, pounding his chest, using the coarsest language to accuse them of fraud. Promised me a young, pretty, obedient wife. Gave me a monster instead. Give me back my life savings. Or I'll tell the whole neighborhood you sold your daughter. My mother and a freshly discharged Kyle, faces ashen, rushed out to drag him inside. But Frank stood his ground, howling even louder, drawing more fingers pointing and whispers. $100,000. Not a penny less. Plus compensation for my trauma. Frank demanded exorbitantly. Kyle, who had been barely containing his fury, finally exploded. He grabbed Frank by the collar. "Money given is money gone. Get lost. You little bastard. You dare touch me?" Frank struggled and cursed. Those words broke the last of Kyle's restraint. He slammed Frank to the ground and began kicking and punching him wildly, like a rabid animal. My mother shrieked and tried to pull him off, but she was no match. It took several neighbors to finally wrestle Kyle away. Frank lay motionless on the ground. Sirens wailed in the distance. Kyle was handcuffed and taken away by the police. My mother was brought in as a witness. An ambulance carted Frank off. Mingling with the dispersing crowd, I watched the final act of the play I had directed, then turned and walked away without a flicker of emotion. 2 days later, I showed up at the family home, looking disheveled. My mother, who seemed to have aged a decade, opened the door. Seeing me, hatred blazed in her eyes. She yanked me inside and slapped me hard across the face. "Jinx. Look at the disaster you've caused. Kyle's locked up again. If Frank dies, it's murder." She shrieked hysterically. I held my cheek, tears welling on command. Mom, what happened? Tell me. Even if it costs me my life, I'll help you. Help me? She gripped my shoulders, nails digging in, her eyes feverish. Then go to prison in Kyle's place. Tell the police you did it. Go on. The words still managed to slice deep. I looked at her and nodded slowly. All right. If the law allows it, I will. The sentence acted like a sedative. She calmed down, sobbing as she recounted the events. Frank was in a coma with critical injuries. Kyle was in custody facing serious charges. There's still a chance, I said, taking her icy hands. If Frank wakes up, and we can get him to agree to a settlement, Kyle might get a lighter sentence. But it will take a lot of money. Mom, do you have any left? She had always guarded my father's death benefit fiercely. For her son, she finally relented. I have the money. If it can get Kyle out. Mom, give me my documents back, I pressed my advantage. I need to hire him the best lawyer. I can't do anything without them. Asterisk. This time, she didn't hesitate. Hashtag Chapter 9, The Growth of Malice. During the days waiting for Frank to wake, Silas grew increasingly restless. He asked daily, what's the plan today? When do we kill them? I corrected him. Death isn't the only punishment. I want them to lose what they care about most and suffer for it, alive. Silas fell silent, but my sense of foreboding grew. He seemed to be slipping from my control. A week later, Frank regained consciousness, but his condition was unstable. I took my mother to the hospital to negotiate. On the way, she prattled incessantly, praying for Kyle's safety. Meanwhile, I refined my plan, in my head, have my mother pay Frank the death benefit for a statement of forgiveness, then have Frank renege after getting the money. Let them fight, ending up with neither person nor money. In the hospital room, the weakened Frank took one look at my mother and began trembling violently, pointing a shaky finger at us, gasping soundlessly. He could see Silas, fully manifested and threatening, standing behind her. I quickly hustled my confused mother out of the room. Once the door was closed, Frank looked at me like a lifeline. No, goddess. I did everything you said. Please, let me go. I put on a pained expression. You got beaten half to death and didn't even get the money. What a raw deal. My mother wants to buy your forgiveness with cash, to get my brother out. You could squeeze her for everything she's worth. Greed quickly overcame fear. But she's your mother. Did she remember she was my mother when she sold me to you? A tear traced down my cheek. If you can help me get even, I'd be grateful. Frank immediately understood, even devising a more vicious scheme. Take the money first, promise to sign the papers after being discharged, then vanish with the cash. I smiled through tears, praised his cleverness, and called my mother back in. Hearing she had to pay up front, my mother nearly refused. I pulled her aside, whispering a warning. This is the only chance. Push him too far, and Kyle might never get out. Asterisk. My mother capitulated, sending me to the bank to withdraw the funds. As I left the room, Silas suddenly asked, what is this tedious game you're playing? Just kill them. Clean and simple. You wouldn't understand, I said, hurrying away. I don't want simple destruction. Silas did not follow. Hashtag Chapter 10, The Unraveling. Returning from the bank, a block from the hospital, I saw flashing police lights and a crowd. My premonition solidified into dread. Some Asian old lady, she pulled out the patient's breathing tube. Smothered him to death. It was terrifying. A passerby recounted, horrified. I pushed through the throng. My mother was being led away in handcuffs, her eyes vacant, muttering to herself, it wasn't me, it wasn't, my hands wouldn't listen. At the police station, I learned the facts. An argument had erupted in the hospital room between my mother and Frank. In a fit of rage, she had disconnected his oxygen supply and suffocated him. My mother insisted her hands moved on their own, but no one believed her. After giving my statement, I wandered, numb, into a deserted alley. Silas, I said, my voice hoarse. Show yourself. The shadow materialized. What did you do? I guided her hand to pull the tube. Then used her hand to cover his mouth and nose. He struggled. She struggled. It was futile. He died. I pressed the call button. His thoughts were calm, even tinged with the pleasure of a completed masterpiece. I trembled. Why? I told you the plan. Your plan was roundabout, tedious. Silas's thoughts dripped with disdain. Malice should be direct. Efficient. Watching them struggle in agony before the end, that is the true pleasure. Miranda, you created me, yet you seek to chain me with your pathetic morality? Remember, it was the darkness within you that birthed me. You and I are one and the same, at our core. From the other end of the alley came a woman's scream. Stop him. Thief. A man clutching a woman's purse was sprinting straight toward me. Almost on instinct, I moved to intercept him. The man was strong. I grabbed his jacket, shouting at the motionless Silas. Silas. Hold him down. Silas didn't move. His mocking thought pierced my mind. Playing hero? That's for good people. I am a spirit of malice, Miranda. Your command contradicts my nature. The man wrenched himself free. The back of my head struck the cold brick wall. The last thing I saw before darkness swallowed me was Silas looking down, his gaze full of derision. #### Chapter 11, delete. I woke in a hospital bed with a minor concussion. My laptop lay quietly beside me. One thing was clear, Silas had to be erased. I opened the laptop and found the document for undercurrents. Silas materialized beside me, his agitation making objects in the room rattle and shake without wind. Miranda. I helped you. I removed your obstacles. And now you want to destroy me? This is betrayal. His psychic shout was a needle in my brain. Call it betrayal, then. My voice was eerily calm. I won't fall with you. You can't stay in this world. Fall? He laughed bitterly. Look at yourself. Curses, revenge, manipulation, you were already deep in it. You are like me. To destroy me, you must first destroy the beast in your own heart. I didn't respond. I moved the cursor, selected the first chapter featuring Silas, and pressed delete. Ah! A piercing, silent shriek tore from him. The shadow writhed violently. What have you done? My memories, my power. I deleted chapter after chapter. Silas's form grew faint, dispersed. He fell to his knees, crawling toward me with the last of his substance, his thoughts now raw fear and pleading. No. Miranda. I'll change. I'll obey. I'll be good. Don't delete me, ****. Before erasing the final lines describing him, I said, goodbye, Silas. The delete key fell. The shadow emitted one last, futile scream of defiance and dissolved into nothingness. The room fell silent, save for the faint whir of the laptop fan. I closed the lid, feeling as if I had shut a dark gate within my own heart. ###epilogue. Later, I moved to the West Coast. My mother was convicted. Kyle also received a substantial sentence for aggravated assault. After a complex legal process, the death benefit from my father eventually came to me. Years later, on a peaceful afternoon with good sunlight, I felt a sudden urge to open a document and write again. A new, blank file. The cursor blinked, waiting for a name. I typed, deleted, typed again. Finally, 2 words remained on the screen. Miranda.